Okay, I'm now going to start working on the leaf and flower pattern on the front of the bodice. This took a little bit of tweaking and I had to do some printouts and some rough measurements, but we can work out that they're basically separate pieces just overlapping each other with a flower in the middle. And there's obviously been some damage to it over time or wear, because you can see this one's parting away and the patterns aren't exact on each side. You see my finger on this side and then this one's drooping right down. So I'm going to take the left one as a better example, and these are the pieces that I've worked out. So I've got the far one will come over there, then the little one, and then a longer one, then the flower, and then this one will go right down the centre. Okay, now the way I've done some appliques, which you can see here, I've just been arranging them. I've got some black cotton velvet and I've got some double-sided adhesive sheets. Now there might be other methods or better methods out there, but this one seemed to work okay for me, because of course when you cut velvet it shreds to pieces. And you can see quite a few pieces already coming up here. So that was the main issue, and with cotton velvet being quite different from other fabrics, obviously you can't just cut the edge and leave it. So this is what I've got. You need double-sided, not single-sided, and I've got just some little A5 sheets like this, but you can get them bigger. Okay, you need to turn your velvet over so that the good side, the soft side, is facing down, and you've got the rough side, your bad side, facing up. You then need to take your sheet and start peeling edge away. Okay, just having Mum help me here. Just peel off the back very carefully, just along the top. Make a crease. Stick one back to your fabric. Very carefully, go from top to bottom. Like so. Okay, just get my templates here. Just remember that you need to do opposites because they're in opposite directions. So I'm now working on the right hand side here, so I need to put it that way so that when I turn my fabric the right way out, I've got the soft side of velvet, it will be pointing to my right, hopefully. So just remember that when you're cutting, otherwise you'll end up with lots going in the same direction and you'll tear your hair out. Okay, next you want to take your templates that you cut out, and I've just used a bit of blue tack there, just stick them on. Use blue tack so I can just get it off easily. Then you want to take a pencil and just draw around your design. And then just peel them off. Yeah. Then you have your design, and then you do that for all your pieces. Then next you just want to start cutting your design out. Okay, next you take your appliques and start sticking them down. It can be a bit fiddly, but you have to try and take the backing off. And then that should be sticky. And then stick it down to where it needs to be. I've already done the left side, So I'm using that as a template to do the other side.
We're going to use hooks and eyes to do up the back fastening, so that is now completed. Continuing the same theme as on the apron, I've now finished off doing the beading. I've changed the amount of beads between each rows. The first row has got 5, and then 7, and then 11. And so that the bodice doesn't keep parting company with the skirt, I've put on a large hook onto the centre of the bodice and a corresponding eye onto the centre back of the skirt waistband.
Okay, from what I can make out and some film footage is she has some kind of possibly bugle beads highlighting the appliques. So I've bought these 6mm black bugle beads from Craft Factory, and it really just give it just that bit of highlight, just to reflect in certain lights. And I've done the back as well.
We have now got our peplum pattern, and this will be a separate item that's going to be sewn onto the bottom of the bodice, and this is the pattern for the centre back, and this one is for the side, and I'm going to be cutting 4 of these because I want 2 pieces to be the liner. First of all, sew up the side seams and make sure that you do an opposite, and you've got to do this twice for the top fabric and the lining pieces. After pressing all the seams, I'm going to overlock all the centre back pieces on the outer and liner. With the 2 pieces together, right side to right side, like so. Put the back pieces together, and approximately 16 centimeters down, place a pin. This is going to be left open, and I want to do a 2 centimeter seam to the bottom on both pieces. When you iron the centre back seam, it will be a 2 centimeter turnover. Make sure that you iron one that goes to the left, and the other one will go to the right. At the centre back on both pieces, cut up diagonally up to where the stitching is, and do that on both pieces, front and back. To make the pleating for the peplum, I'm going to need smaller pleating than I did on the train. So I've made a new pleat board, but this time I've only made the distances 1 centimeter between each pleat, and if I just pull that back, the distance inside is 2 centimeters. Take all the pins out of the pleating, and with a long stitch just sew about 1 centimeter from the top. Okay, now for the awkward bit of sandwiching the pleating between the 2 pieces. By the time it gets to about 8 to 10 centimeters from this curve at the top, I need the pleating to disappear into the seam. So it's starting off with a small pleat right at the top, and it's gradually getting bigger as it goes further around the peplum. So I'm starting off at about 1 centimetre in with my pleating, and you're going to need to put the outside like that, if it makes sense, to the inside of your fabric. Now as I go around, if you start from this side, this is the right side of the fabric, sorry, wrong side of the fabric. Where I start off here, I need to disappear into the seam, but as I'm coming down I need to see more and more of the pleat. So very carefully pin your pleating so you show more and more. By the time I get to the bottom here, I want to only see about a centimetre of pleating, and then about 3/4 of the way round I want to start seeing more of the pleating. So by the time it gets up to the other side, it's almost non-existent, and I want that to disappear into the seam. Hopefully this will turn out. Okay, next you need to make up 2 small sections of black taffeta cording to go around the last part of the peplum. Okay, just take out the last pin that you used to put your pleating down, and then tuck the bias just under the end and gradually bring it down lower and lower and lower underneath there, so that when the whole thing is turned the whole way out, hopefully it will work out properly. So when the whole thing goes that way, the right way, I'm hoping that the pleating will disappear into the seam, and then we'll start to see the piping. Okay, just turning that to the right side so we can see how it's turned out, and I'm quite pleased with it. What I've done is I just ran a sewing stitch to connect everything together. Just use a long stitch to do that, and this is how it turned out. So when it comes around to this side here, as the pleating is starting to disappear into the seam, then the piping starts, and that goes round the corner up to the waist. So I'm quite pleased with the way it's turned out. Okay, now take your lining piece and right side to right side, we're going to attach that now, and the cording will be part of the seam, and then you'll be coming down, keeping to the same distance as you did on the top piece, and hopefully that should work out okay. Cut around all the edges with pinking shears if you have them, or you can overlock it if you like, and then wherever you have any curves, just cut into the curves up to your sewing, and do that all the way around. Then we're going to turn it the right way out and give it a good press. I'm not going to bother undoing the bodice and taking off all the piping at the back when I put the peplum on, so what I'm going to do is just pin the peplum to the inside of the bodice, and where the pins are there, just about where the piping is, I'm going to just sew the peplum straight on. Then when it gets to the end here, I'm just going to blend in the end of the piping with the piping of the bodice. So when that's turned the right way out, hopefully it will just blend in, and I'm going to do that to both sides of the bodice. Having sewn the peplum on to the bodice now, I've blended the piping on the peplum with piping on the bodice. What I have to do now is go to the inside and turn up all of the excess, and then just hand stitch it into the bodice.
Okay, the final thing I've done on my peplum is I've stepped down my flowers using the same technique as the leaves on the top. This is my personal choice, but I've just put some bugle beads on each petal, and then in the middle I've put a 4mm Swarovski black jet crystal. can buy flat back crystals. I chose hot fix ones, but you can just buy non-hot fix and glue them on with fabric glue. So that finishes the costume off.